The last person Clara Zhao expected to spend an hour arguing with over a bottle of 2015 Shadow Margox was the tall, impossibly confident man who arrived 40 minutes late to her best friend's wine night, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She had been reaching for the bottle when his hand closed around it from the opposite direction. Their eyes met across the kitchen island, and before either could speak, their mutual friend Rebecca rushed over with her characteristic enthusiasm. "Oh, perfect, Clara, this is Owen Everett." "Owen, Clara, you two are going to love each other or kill each other. I honestly cannot predict which." Rebecca grabbed 2 wine glasses and pushed them toward the bottle still suspended between 4 hands. "Now play nice while I check on the cheese board." Clara released the bottle first, crossing her arms. "I was going to open that one. Great minds think alike." Owen set the wine down carefully, his dark eyes amused. "Though I have to say, starting with a Margox seems aggressive for a casual Friday night." "Aggressive?" Clara felt her eyebrows shoot up. "It is literally the perfect wine for this weather, this food, and this crowd. What would you suggest? Some safe Pinot Noir that everyone will forget 5 minutes after drinking it?" "I would suggest saving the best bottle for when people's palates are actually ready to appreciate it." Owen loosened his tie slightly, and Clara tried not to notice how the movement drew attention to his jawline. "Right now, everyone is cold, hungry, and drinking too fast. You open that Margox now, and it is wasted." "That is incredibly pretentious." Clara moved to pick up the bottle again. "Wine is meant to be enjoyed, not worshipped. If we wait for the perfect moment, we will never drink anything. There is a difference between worshipping and respecting." Owen did not reach for the bottle, but his stance suggested he was ready to. "That bottle costs $800. It deserves more than being gulped down while people are still taking off their coats." Clara paused, genuinely curious now despite her irritation. "You memorized the price of every bottle Rebecca owns." "I brought that bottle." His expression shifted slightly, something guarded moving behind his eyes. "As a thank you for tonight. I did not realize it would cause a philosophical crisis." Heat crept up Clara's neck. "I did not know." "I am sorry. I thought it was just part of Rebecca's collection." "Do not apologize." Owen's voice softened. "You were right that it is perfect for tonight. I just think it is perfect for later tonight." Rebecca reappeared with an enormous wooden board loaded with cheeses, crackers, and fruit. "Are you two still fighting over wine?" "Clara, Owen owns a vineyard in Napa." "Owen, Clara is a sommelier at Aurelius. You are literally the same person in different tax brackets. Now please stop making everyone else uncomfortable." Clara blinked. "You own Everett Estate. You know it." Owen looked genuinely surprised. "Know it? I have been trying to get our restaurant to carry your Cabernet Sauvignon for 6 months, but apparently your distribution is insanely limited." Clara felt her competitive edge soften into professional interest. "Your 2019 vintage won the International Wine Challenge last year. You followed the IWC results." Now, Owen was smiling, a real smile that transformed his entire face from boardroom intimidating to almost dangerously attractive. "It is literally my job." Clara reached for a different bottle, a respectable but less precious Bordeaux. "Fine. We will save your bottle for later, but I am opening this one and you cannot stop me." "I would not dream of it." Owen accepted the wine opener she handed him without being asked. "Truce. Temporary ceasefire." Clara held up 2 glasses. "I reserve the right to resume hostilities if you turn out to be one of those wine snobs who spends 20 minutes talking about notes of tobacco and leather. Only if you promise not to be one of those sommeliers who acts like anyone who does not know what malolactic fermentation is should not be allowed to drink wine." Rebecca laughed from across the kitchen. "See, I told you, same person." The apartment filled up over the next hour. Rebecca's wine nights had started as intimate gatherings of 4 or 5 friends, but had evolved into sprawling events where 20 people crowded into her 2-bedroom, spilling onto the balcony despite the November chill. Clara knew most of the faces. Rebecca collected people the way some people collected art, and her friend group was an eclectic mix of artists, lawyers, teachers, and tech workers. Owen stayed near the kitchen island, and Clara found herself circling back to him between conversations with other guests. They disagreed about nearly everything. He thought natural wines were overrated. She argued they represented the future of winemaking. She insisted that wine scoring systems were arbitrary and pretentious. He countered that they provided valuable consumer guidance. He believed in tradition and established regions. She championed New World experimentation. "You are impossible," Clara said after their third debate, this time about whether Napa or Burgundy produced better Pinot Noir. She was flushed from wine and argument, aware that they had been talking for nearly 45 minutes straight. "You literally just argued that Napa is better because it is less constrained by tradition," Owen replied. "That is like saying fast food is better than French cuisine because it is more innovative. That is not even remotely what I said, and you know it." Clara poured them both more wine, noting absently that they had somehow claimed the kitchen island as their own territory. "I said that Napa winemakers have more freedom to experiment, which leads to exciting variations. Burgundy is incredible, but it is also rigid. Rigid." Owen leaned against the counter, his suit jacket long since discarded. "Burgundy has terroir that has been refined over centuries. Every vineyard, every slope matters. That is not rigid, that is mastery. See, this is your problem." Clara pointed at him with her wine glass. "You think tradition equals mastery, but sometimes tradition is just people being too scared to try something new. And you think new automatically means better, which is how we end up with orange wine that tastes like someone fermented a gym sock." Clara burst out laughing despite herself. "Okay, that was fair. Orange wine is hit or miss. Mostly miss." Owen was grinning again, and Clara realized with a start that she had not enjoyed an argument this much in years, maybe ever. Rebecca appeared beside them, eyebrows raised. "You two need to either get a room or agree to disagree because everyone else is getting exhausted just watching you." "We are having a civilized discussion," Clara protested. "You called him a wine fascist 10 minutes ago." "That was taken out of context." Owen laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "She's not wrong. We might be monopolizing the wine conversation. You are monopolizing all the conversation." Rebecca grabbed the Margaux bottle, which somehow had migrated back to the island between them. "It is 11 o'clock. Everyone who is still here actually cares about wine. I am declaring it time for the good stuff." Clara met Owen's eyes across the island, ready to see if it lives up to the hype. "With you as my co-taster." "Absolutely." The room quieted as Rebecca opened the bottle with ceremonial care. Clara grabbed proper Bordeaux glasses from the cabinet. Rebecca kept them for special occasions and watched as the wine poured out, its color a deep garnet that caught the light. Owen performed the first swirl and smell with practiced ease, and Clara found herself watching his face instead of the wine. His expression shifted into something focused and distant, professional in a way that made her realize he probably evaluated wine like this constantly, that this was not just a hobby but his life's work. When he passed her the glass, their fingers brushed, and Clara felt an electric awareness that had nothing to do with wine and everything to do with the fact that she had been standing close to this man for 3 hours, and her body had definitely noticed. She breathed in the wine's bouquet, blackcurrant, cedar, a whisper of violet. The first sip was perfect, balanced and complex, with tannins that promised the bottle could age another decade easily. "Okay," Clara said quietly. "You were right to bring this. And you were right that it is perfect for tonight." Owen was standing close enough that she could smell his cologne beneath the wine, something subtle and expensive. Worth the wait, definitely worth the wait. They were not just talking about wine, and they both knew it. Rebecca started shooing people out around midnight, and Clara found herself helping with cleanup while Owen dried dishes beside her at the sink. Most of the other guests had left in groups, calling ride shares and bundling into coats. The apartment felt suddenly quiet, intimate in a way that made Clara hyper-aware of every movement. "So," Owen said, handing her a dried wine glass to put away, "do you always spend wine nights arguing with strangers, only when they are wrong about literally everything?" Clara bumped his shoulder with hers, surprised by her own boldness. "Do you always show up late and then dominate the conversation? I had a meeting that ran over, and I did not dominate anything. You were holding your own just fine." "What kind of meeting happens on Friday night?" Owen's expression shuddered slightly. "The kind that happens when you are trying to negotiate international distribution deals across time zones. Right, billionaire problems." Clara meant it as a joke, but something in Owen's face made her realize she had touched a nerve. "Is that going to be an issue?" His voice was carefully neutral. "The money thing," Clara considered the question seriously. "I do not know yet. Ask me again when I know you better than 3 hours of wine opinions." "Fair." Owen set down the dish towel. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why did you become a sommelier?" Clara smiled, leaning against the counter. "My parents owned a restaurant in San Francisco. Nothing fancy, just a neighborhood Chinese place, but my dad was obsessed with wine. He thought it was this incredible act of cultural fusion, pairing wines with Chinese food. Everyone told him it would not work, that Chinese food needed beer or tea, but he did not care. He spent years learning, experimenting, driving my mom crazy with all these wine bottles taking over our apartment. Did it work? Eventually. By the time I was in high school, people were coming from across the city for his pairings. He taught me everything: how to taste, how to think about flavors, how wine is really about story and place and the people who make it." Clara's throat tightened. "He died right before I graduated from sommelier school. Heart attack, completely unexpected." Owen's hand found hers on the counter, warm and solid. "I am sorry. Thank you." Clara squeezed his hand before letting go, surprised by how much she had just revealed. "Anyway, that is why I do this. It feels like keeping him alive in a way. That is beautiful." Owen's voice was soft. "And it explains why you are so passionate about it. What about you? How does someone end up owning a vineyard, family business, originally?" "My grandfather started Everett Estate in the 70s, back when Napa was still proving itself. My father expanded it, built it into something internationally recognized." Owen's jaw tightened. "I was supposed to go into finance, make my own way, but my father got sick 10 years ago and I came back to run things. Do you regret it?" "Sometimes." The honesty seemed to surprise him. "I love the wine, the land, the craft of it. But running a company worth 9 figures means spending more time in boardrooms than vineyards. It is not exactly what I imagined. Hence the Friday night meetings." "Hence the Friday night meetings." Rebecca emerged from her bedroom in pajamas. "Are you two still here? Clara, I love you, but I need to sleep. Owen, make sure she gets home safe or I will murder you and hide your body in one of your own wine barrels." "That is very specific," Owen said, but he was already reaching for his jacket. "Clara, can I give you a ride?" Clara hesitated. She had planned to take the subway, but it was late and Owen was looking at her with those dark eyes, and she was not quite ready for the night to end. "If you are sure it is not out of your way." "I am sure." The November air was sharp after the warmth of Rebecca's apartment. Owen's car turned out to be a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than Clara's entire year's salary, and she tried not to feel intimidated as she slid into the leather passenger seat. "Where to?" Owen asked, starting the engine. Clara gave him her address in Brooklyn, and he nodded without comment. As they drove through Manhattan's late-night streets, Clara found herself relaxing into the comfortable silence. She was tired in a good way, wine warmed and mentally stimulated from hours of conversation. "Thank you for tonight," Owen said as they crossed into Brooklyn. "I almost did not come. Rebecca has been trying to set me up with various friends for months, and I was worried this would be another awkward dinner party situation." "Was Rebecca trying to set you up with someone tonight?" "Probably. She keeps telling me I work too much and need to meet people." Owen glanced over at her. "What about you? Any matchmaking schemes in play?" "If there were, Rebecca did not tell me." Clara watched the streetlights slide past. "But that is typical. She is convinced that her mission in life is to ensure all her friends are coupled up and happy." "Is it working?" "Not so far. I have had exactly 2 relationships in the past 5 years, both of which ended when the guy decided I was more interested in wine than them." "Were they right?" Clara laughed. "Maybe. Wine does not cancel plans or forget to call. It just gets better with time." "That is a depressingly good point." They pulled up outside Clara's building, a modest pre-war walk-up in Park Slope. Clara unbuckled her seat belt, but did not immediately reach for the door handle. "I had a really good time tonight," she said, "even though you are wrong about Burgundy." "I had a great time too, even though you have terrible taste in wine regions." Owen was smiling, and in the dim light from the street he looked younger, less guarded. "Can I see you again?" Clara's heart did a complicated flip. "Like a date?" "Yes, like a date." "Unless you have a policy against dating people you meet at wine nights, in which case I will have to kidnap Rebecca and force her to throw another party so we can meet differently." "That seems excessive." Clara felt herself grinning. "Okay, yes, a date. Tomorrow night. That is very soon." "I know, but I am flying to France on Monday for 2 weeks and I would really like to see you before I leave." Owen pulled out his phone. "What is your number?" Clara recited it, watching him type with swift efficiency. Her phone buzzed immediately with a text. "This is Owen. Now you cannot forget me while I am gone." "Pretty confident that I would want to remember you," Clara said, but she was smiling as she opened her door. "Text me tomorrow with details." "Absolutely." "Good night, Clara." "Good night, Owen." Clara watched the Mercedes pull away before heading into her building, her mind already racing through outfit options for whatever tomorrow would bring. She felt giddy and nervous, and a little bit terrified, which seemed like the right combination of emotions for starting something new with someone who had managed to get under her skin in just a few hours. Her roommate Jessica was awake when Clara let herself into their apartment, curled on the couch with her laptop and a mug of tea. "You are home late," Jessica said, looking up from her screen. "How was wine night?" "Weird. Good, really good actually." Clara kicked off her shoes and flopped onto the opposite end of the couch. "I met someone." Jessica closed her laptop with immediate interest. "Tell me everything." "His name is Owen. He owns Everett Estate, yes, that Everett Estate, and he is attractive and infuriating, and we spent 3 hours arguing about wine." "That is incredibly on brand for you." Jessica grinned. And we have a date tomorrow night, I think." He said tomorrow night but did not specify what we are actually doing. Clara pulled out her phone to check if Owen had texted again. He had not. "Is that weird? Is this whole thing weird? It is weird that you are this worked up about a guy you just met, but in a good way. You never get worked up about anyone. Jessica reached over to pat Clara's knee. I am happy for you. Just try not to critique his wine choices on the first date. That is literally how we met. Then you are already doomed. I will start planning your wine-themed wedding now. Clara threw a pillow at her, but she was laughing. She stayed up another hour texting with Rebecca, who demanded a full recap and claimed total credit for the entire situation. By the time Clara finally fell asleep, it was past 2 in the morning, and she was smiling into her pillow like a teenager. Owen texted at 9 the next morning. Good morning. How do you feel about the Museum of Modern Art followed by dinner? I promise to only argue with you about paintings, not wine. Clara responded immediately. That sounds perfect. What time? 2 o'clock. I will pick you up. It is a date. Clara spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing an outfit, finally settling on dark jeans, ankle boots, and a soft gray sweater that Jessica declared effortlessly chic. She applied makeup with more care than usual, cursing her slightly shaking hands. This was ridiculous. She was 28 years old, a professional with a successful career. There was no reason to be this nervous about a date, except Owen was not just any date. Owen was brilliant and challenging and successful in ways that made Clara's accomplishments feel small by comparison. Owen was also, if she was being honest with herself, the first person in years who had made her feel truly seen. He showed up exactly at 2, this time in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made him look less billionaire and more approachable. He had brought coffee from a place Clara recognized as her favorite cafe 3 blocks away. How did you know my coffee order? Clara asked, accepting the cup. I texted Rebecca. She said you drink oat milk lattes with an extra shot. Owen's expression was slightly sheepish. Too much? No. Perfect, actually. Clara took a sip and felt warmth spread through her chest. Thank you. The drive into Manhattan was easy, filled with comfortable conversation about art and weekend plans and nothing of particular consequence. At the museum, they wandered through galleries with no particular agenda, stopping when something caught their attention. Owen surprised her by having strong opinions about abstract expressionism. Clara discovered she could make him laugh by inventing increasingly absurd interpretations of minimalist sculptures. They argued good-naturedly about whether Pollock was a genius or a fraud, whether Warhol's commercialism was brilliant or cynical, whether modern art had lost something essential or gained necessary freedom. You like arguing with me, Clara said as they stood in front of a massive Rothko, its bands of color seeming to pulse with emotion. I do, Owen admitted. Most people agree with me because of who I am, what I have. You do not care about any of that. Should I care? God, I hope not. Owen turned to face her fully, his back to the painting. Can I tell you something? Sure. I have been on a lot of first dates in the past few years. Dinners at expensive restaurants, charity galas, carefully orchestrated evenings designed to impress. His expression was serious. This is the first time I have just enjoyed being with someone. No performance, no expectations, just this. Clara felt her breath catch. Just this is pretty great. It really is. They had dinner in a small Italian place in the West Village. The kind of restaurant with checked tablecloths and candles in wine bottles, and absolutely no pretension. Owen ordered a bottle of Chianti without consulting the wine list, and Clara nearly called him out on it before realizing he was deliberately choosing something unpretentious, something that would not spark their competitive instincts. Truce wine, she said when the server poured. Exactly. I wanted at least one meal where we are not arguing about what we are drinking. The food was simple and perfect. Fresh pasta, roasted vegetables, crusty bread with olive oil. They talked about everything and nothing. Owen told her about growing up in Napa, about learning to identify wine grapes by taste when he was 10, about his complicated relationship with his father's legacy. Clara shared stories about the restaurant, about difficult customers and the joy of finding the perfect pairing, about her dream of someday opening her own wine bar. "What is stopping you?" Owen asked, twirling pasta around his fork. "Money mostly, and fear probably. It is a huge risk." Clara shrugged. "Right now I have a steady job, good income, respect in the industry. Starting over feels impossible, but you want it. I want it so much it keeps me up at night sometimes." Clara had never said that out loud before. "Is that crazy?" "Not even a little bit. That is exactly how I feel about the vineyard, even when I am drowning in spreadsheets and distribution contracts." Owen reached across the table to take her hand. "For what it is worth, I think you should do it. Anyone who loves wine the way you do deserves to build something of their own," says the man who inherited a successful estate. "Which is exactly why I know the difference. I am grateful for what my family built, but sometimes I wonder what I could have created from nothing, you know." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "You have that chance. You should take it." They lingered over dessert, neither wanting the evening to end. When Owen finally drove her home, it was past 11, and Clara felt drunk on something that had nothing to do with wine. "I leave for France in the morning," Owen said as they idled outside her building. "But I will be back in 2 weeks. Can I see you then?" 2 weeks is a long time. "I know, but I want to see you again, Clara, a lot, if you are interested." Clara leaned across the center console and kissed him, a soft press of lips that sent electricity racing down her spine. Owen's hand came up to cup her face, gentle and sure, and for a moment the world narrowed to just this. His mouth on hers, the warmth of his palm, the way her heart was racing so fast she thought it might burst. When they broke apart, Owen looked dazed. "I am taking that as a yes." "That is a yes." "Text me from France. Every day." He kissed her again, slower this time. "Good night, Clara." Clara practically floated up the stairs to her apartment. Jessica took one look at her face and started laughing. "That good? Better." Clara collapsed onto the couch, touching her lips like a character in a romance novel. "Jess, I think I am in serious trouble. The good kind of trouble, the terrifying kind. Owen texted from the airport the next morning, 'Already missing you, is that pathetic?' Clara responded, 'Only if it is pathetic that I am checking my phone every 5 minutes waiting to hear from you.' Their text conversation became a constant thread over the next 2 weeks. Owen sent photos from Bordeaux vineyards, from meetings with French distributors, from late-night dinners in Paris. Clara shared pictures of her daily life. Interesting wine bottles at work, her morning coffee, Jessica's attempts at cooking. They texted about everything: their days, their pasts, their dreams and fears and random observations about the world. The conversations were easy and addictive, and Clara found herself constantly smiling at her phone. Her coworkers noticed. Rebecca was insufferably smug about the whole thing. Even Jessica, who generally maintained a healthy skepticism about Clara's dating life, admitted that Owen seemed different. "He is just really present, you know," Clara said one night over takeout. "Even when he is on a different continent dealing with major business stuff, he makes time to talk. He remembers things I mention in passing. He asks questions like he actually cares about the answers." "You are falling for him," Jessica observed. "Maybe, probably. Is that insane? We have known each other for 2 weeks. My parents got engaged after 3 weeks and they have been married for 30 years. Sometimes you just know." Clara wanted to believe that. She also knew that fairy tales rarely survived contact with reality, and right now she and Owen existed in a bubble of texts and one perfect date. Real life would be more complicated. Owen returned to New York on a Wednesday evening. Clara was working late at Aurelius, helping train a new server on the wine list, when her phone buzzed. "Just landed. Can I see you tonight? Even if it is just for an hour." Clara looked at the time. It was already 9:30 and she was exhausted from a double shift. Every reasonable part of her brain said to go home and see him tomorrow. Instead she typed, "I get off at 11. Too late, never too late. I will pick you up." Clara spent the next 90 minutes distracted and jittery, messing up a wine recommendation so badly that her manager asked if she was feeling all right. When 11 finally arrived, she rushed through closing tasks and changed out of her work shirt into a nicer top she kept in her locker. Owen was waiting outside the restaurant, leaning against his Mercedes in jeans and a leather jacket that made Clara's stomach flip. The moment she walked out, his face lit up in a way that made her forget every ounce of exhaustion. "Hi," he said, pulling her into a hug that felt like coming home. "Hi yourself." Clara breathed in his scent, cologne, and something underneath that was just Owen. "How was France?" "Long, productive, extremely lacking in you." He pulled back just enough to look at her. "I know it is late, but will you come back to my place? Just to talk. I have been going crazy wanting to see you in person." Clara knew she should probably be cautious, should not go home with a man she had known for 2 weeks. But she trusted her instincts, and every instinct was screaming that Owen was safe, that this was right. "Okay," she said simply. Owen's apartment was in Tribeca, a converted loft with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. It was beautiful in an understated way, expensive but not ostentatious, clearly professionally decorated but with personal touches that made it feel lived in. Wine bottles lined one wall, an impressive collection that made Clara's fingers itch to explore. "Your wine library is making me jealous," she said, gravitating toward it immediately. "Feel free to browse. Most of them are from the estate, but I have been collecting others for years." Owen disappeared into the kitchen, returning with 2 glasses of water. "Are you hungry? I can order something. I ate at work, but I would love to try one of these." Clara pulled out a bottle of Everett Estate Cabernet, the 2019 vintage she had mentioned their first night. "This one especially." "Good choice." Owen found a corkscrew and opened it with practiced ease. "Though I am biased." They settled on the couch with their wine, close enough that their knees touched. Clara took her first sip and made an involuntary sound of pleasure. The wine was incredibly rich and layered, with notes of blackberry, chocolate, and something almost floral underneath. "Okay, this is unfair," Clara said. "How am I supposed to critique your wine when it is this good? You could try." Owen was smiling. "I promise not to get offended." "The tannins are almost too smooth. It is like drinking velvet. The finish is absurdly long. I can still taste it." Clara took another sip, considering. "If I had to be critical, I would say it might be too polished. There is no rough edge, nothing unexpected." "That is very fair. My winemaker and I have debated that exact issue." Owen shifted to face her more fully. "I tend to prefer elegance over surprise. She thinks I am boring." "You are not boring." Clara set down her glass. "You are probably the least boring person I have met in years, even though I make boring wine." "I did not say it was boring. I said it was polished. There is a difference." Owen leaned in slowly, giving Clara plenty of time to move away. She did not. His kiss was soft and questioning, and Clara answered by threading her fingers through his hair and pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, heat building between them, and Clara felt herself melting into the couch cushions. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Owen pressed his forehead to hers. "I missed you," he said quietly. 2 weeks felt like 2 months. "I missed you too." Clara's voice came out shaky. This is happening fast. Too fast. Maybe. I do not know. Does it matter if it feels right? I do not think so. Owen kissed her again, gentler this time. But I also do not want to rush you into anything you are not ready for. Clara appreciated that, even as her body was screaming at her to throw caution away entirely. Can we just see where things go? No timeline, no pressure. That sounds perfect. They stayed on the couch for another 2 hours, talking and kissing and drinking wine until Clara could barely keep her eyes open. Owen called her a car service, walking her down to meet it and kissing her goodnight with a tenderness that made her chest ache. Over the next month, they fell into a rhythm. Owen worked impossibly long hours, but he made time for Clara dinners on weeknights, lazy Sunday mornings, quick coffee dates between meetings. Clara introduced him to her favorite dive bars and hole-in-the-wall restaurants. Owen took her to wine tastings and industry events, delighting in her sharp observations and willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. They were good together. Better than good. Clara felt challenged and supported in equal measure, like she could be fully herself without fear of judgment. Owen seemed lighter when they were together, less weighed down by the pressures of running a massive company. The first crack appeared 5 weeks in. Clara was closing at Aurelius on a Friday night when a group of 4 came in for a late dinner. They were loud and clearly already drunk, but the hostess seated them in Clara's section. She approached with her professional smile, ready to guide them through the wine list. The man at the head of the table looked up and his face split into a grin. Clara Zhao. No way. Clara felt her stomach drop. She recognized him now, Marcus Chen, from her sommelier certification program. They had dated briefly, a messy 3 months that ended when he took a job in Los Angeles and did not ask her to come with him. Marcus. Hi, I did not know you were back in New York. Just visiting. Man, you look great. This is crazy running into you here. He was already half out of his chair, pulling her into an unwanted hug. Guys, this is Clara. We used to date. She is the one I told you about, total wine genius. Clara extricated herself as politely as possible, aware that the other diners at nearby tables were watching. Can I start you all with some water and the wine list? Only if you let me take you out for a drink after your shift. We have so much to catch up on. I am seeing someone, actually. But thank you. Clara kept her voice professional, but her hands were shaking slightly. I will give you all a minute to look over the menu. She escaped to the kitchen, pressing her palms against the cool stainless steel counter and taking deep breaths. She could handle this. Marcus was just a guy from her past. It did not mean anything. But he spent the entire meal trying to get her attention, calling her over for unnecessary questions, making increasingly inappropriate comments about how good she looked. By the time they finally left, leaving a deliberately huge tip with Marcus's phone number written on the receipt, Clara was exhausted and rattled. She texted Owen. Tonight was awful. Can I come over? His response was immediate, of course. I will order food. Are you okay? Just need to see you. Owen was waiting when Clara arrived, pulling her into his arms the moment she walked through the door. She let herself lean into him, breathing in his familiar scent and feeling the tension start to drain from her shoulders. What happened? Owen asked, guiding her to the couch. Clara told him about Marcus, about the uncomfortable dinner service, about feeling exposed and objectified in a way that made her want to shower. Owen listened without interrupting, his jaw getting progressively tighter. Did he hurt you? Owen's voice was dangerously quiet. No, nothing like that. He was just a jerk, made me remember why I do not date within the industry anymore. Clara curled into Owen's side. Present company excluded. You are not excluding me far enough. I am absolutely in the industry. You are different. You do not make me feel small. Owen kissed the top of her head. Anyone who makes you feel small is an idiot. You are extraordinary, Clara." They ate Thai food on the couch and watched a terrible action movie neither of them paid attention to. Clara fell asleep with her head on Owen's shoulder, and when she woke up at 3 in the morning, he had covered her with a blanket and was lightly snoring beside her. Clara studied his face in the dim light from the windows, the strong lines, the slight vulnerability that showed when he slept. She was falling in love with him, had probably already fallen. The realization did not scare her as much as it should have. November bled into December. Clara met Owen's friends, a tight circle of college buddies and business associates who clearly adored him. Owen met Jessica properly and passed her intensive best friend vetting with flying colors. They talked every day, saw each other at least 4 times a week, despite their crazy schedules. But Clara had not met Owen's family, and as the holidays approached, that absence became more noticeable. "Are you going home for Christmas?" Clara asked one Sunday morning as they lay in Owen's bed, trading sections of the newspaper. "Probably. My mom expects it." Owen did not look up from the business section. "What about you?" "My mom's in San Francisco. I will probably fly out for a few days." Clara hesitated. "Have you told your family about me?" Owen set down the paper, his expression carefully neutral. "I have mentioned you. That is not an answer." "What do you want me to say, Clara?" "I want you to tell me why you keep your life so compartmentalized. I have met your friends, your business partners, but you never talk about your mom or the rest of your family. Are you ashamed of me or something?" "What? No, God, no." Owen sat up, running a hand through his hair. "It is complicated, so explain it to me." Owen was quiet for a long moment. "My family has expectations about who I date, who I end up with, my mother especially. She has been trying to set me up with daughters of family friends, women from established wine families, people who fit into a specific world." Clara felt cold spreading through her chest. "And I do not fit." "That is not what I am saying. But it is what you are thinking." Clara pushed off the bed, grabbing her clothes. "I am not fancy enough, is that it? Not connected enough, not rich enough." "Clara, stop, please." Owen caught her hand. "This is not about you. It is about me and my family's dysfunction, and the fact that I am 32 years old and still trying to prove I can make my own choices." "You are 32. Clara pulled her hand back. "You told me you were 30. I did not lie. You assumed and I did not correct you." Owen looked miserable. "See, this is exactly what I am talking about. Every detail of my life comes with complications." Clara felt tears burning behind her eyes. "I need some space. I am going home." "Clara, wait. Please do not leave like this." But Clara was already pulling on her jeans, her sweater, grabbing her bag. She felt stupid and naive and angry at herself for falling so hard so fast. Owen followed her to the door, trying to explain, but Clara just shook her head and left. She cried on the subway ride home, earning concerned looks from other passengers. Jessica was out when Clara got back to the apartment, which was probably for the best. Clara took a scalding shower and climbed into bed, feeling like an idiot. Her phone buzzed constantly with texts from Owen. She ignored them until he sent, "I am sorry. You deserve better than excuses." "Can we please talk?" Clara responded. "I need a few days. Please respect that." Owen did not text again. Clara threw herself into work, picking up extra shifts and staying late to reorganize the restaurant's wine cellar. Rebecca called to check in, having somehow heard about the fight through the mysterious friendship network. Clara assured her everything was fine and proceeded to avoid talking about it at all. 3 days passed. Clara missed Owen with a physical ache that surprised her. She missed his laugh, his terrible dad jokes, the way he listened like every word she said mattered. She missed arguing with him about wine and waking up in his arms and the easy comfort they had built together. But she was also angry. Angry that he had kept parts of himself hidden, that he still seemed to care so much about his family's approval, that he had let her fall in love with him while holding pieces back. On the fourth day, Rebecca showed up at Clara's apartment with a bottle of wine and a determined expression. "Okay, we are going to talk about this," Rebecca announced, pushing past Clara into the living room. "You have been miserable. Owen has been miserable, and I am tired of watching two people I care about suffer because they are both too stubborn to have an honest conversation." "Rebecca, I really do not want to. I do not care what you want right now. I care about what you need." Rebecca poured 2 large glasses of wine and handed one to Clara. "Sit." Clara sat. "Owen did not tell his family about you because he was afraid they would ruin it," Rebecca said bluntly. "Not because you are not good enough, because you are too good, and he did not want them anywhere near something that actually matters to him." "How do you know that?" "Because he told me. He called me in a panic after you left, terrified that he had destroyed the best thing in his life." Rebecca leaned forward. "Clara, Owen's family is toxic. His mother is controlling, his late father was emotionally abusive, and Owen has spent his entire adult life trying to prove he is more than just an heir. Meeting you was the first time in years that he felt like someone saw him for who he actually is, not what he represents." Clara felt her anger cracking. "Why did he not just tell me that?" "Because he is a 32-year-old man with family trauma and communication issues, like literally every human on the planet." Rebecca softened her tone. "Look, I am not saying he handled it perfectly. He should have been honest from the start, but he was not trying to hide you. He was trying to protect you." Clara drank her wine, thinking. "He lied about his age, by 2 years, and he is planning to tell you. Owen is many things, but he is not a liar." Rebecca reached over to squeeze Clara's knee. "Just talk to him, hear him out. You two are too good together to throw it away over a misunderstanding." Clara knew Rebecca was right. She was still hurt, still worried about what Owen's reluctance to involve his family meant for their future. But she also knew that what they had was worth fighting for. She texted Owen that night, "Can we talk tomorrow?" His response came seconds later, "Anytime, anywhere. I will come to you." They met at a quiet coffee shop in Park Slope the next afternoon. Owen looked terrible, exhausted and hollow-eyed, like he had not slept in days. Clara probably looked the same. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," Owen said, wrapping his hands around his coffee cup. "I was terrified you would not." "I almost did not." Clara forced herself to be honest. "I am still hurt and confused. I do not understand why you could not just tell me the truth about your family." "I know." "You are right." Owen took a deep breath. "Can I explain? The whole story, not just the sanitized version?" Clara nodded. Owen told her about growing up as the heir to Everett Estate, about a father who saw him as an extension of the family brand rather than a person. About a mother who loved him, but had been molded by decades of society expectations into someone who valued appearances over authenticity. About relationships that fell apart because the women were more interested in his money than him, or because his family drove them away with their judgment and manipulation. "When I met you, it felt different from the start," Owen said, his voice rough with emotion. "You did not know who I was. You just saw a guy who showed up late to a party and had opinions about wine. You argued with me, challenged me, treated me like a normal person. It was intoxicating. But you still kept me separate from your real life, because I was scared. Every time I have introduced someone to my family, they have found ways to poison it. My mother makes snide comments about their background or their career or their appearance. She finds ways to make them feel inadequate, and I did not want that to happen to you." Owen reached across the table, stopping just short of touching Clara's hand. "You are the first person in so long who makes me feel like I could actually build a life that is mine, not just an extension of my family's legacy. I could not stand the thought of them ruining that." Clara felt tears prickling her eyes. "You should have told me. Let me decide if I could handle it. You are absolutely right. I was protecting myself more than you, and that was selfish." Owen's voice cracked slightly. "I am so sorry, Clara. For hiding things, for making you feel like you were not important enough to be part of my whole life. You are the most important thing in my life right now, and I should have shown you that." "What about the age thing?" Owen winced. "I should have corrected you immediately. It was cowardly not to. I was 32 last month, and I let you think I was younger because I was worried the age gap would bother you. Which was stupid, because 2 years is not even significant, but I was just looking for any excuse to keep you interested." Clara wiped at her eyes. "I am not a fragile flower, Owen. I can handle complicated families and age differences and all the messy parts of real life. What I cannot handle is not knowing what I am walking into. I know, and I promise, no more secrets, no more compartmentalizing." Owen finally took her hand, his grip almost desperate. "I love you, Clara. I am completely in love with you, and the thought of losing you because I was too much of a coward to be fully honest is killing me." Clara's breath caught. "You love me, so much it terrifies me. I have never felt like this about anyone." Owen's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "And I understand if it is too soon or too much, or if I have already destroyed your trust. But I needed you to know." Clara stood up, and Owen's face fell. But instead of leaving, she came around the table and wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her face into his shoulder. "I love you too," she whispered. "And I am terrified too, but I want to try. Really try, with all the complicated family stuff and the age gap and everything else." Owen turned in his chair to pull her properly into his arms, holding her so tightly Clara could barely breathe. They stayed like that for a long moment, both crying a little, both relieved. When they finally pulled apart, Owen cupped Clara's face in his hands. "I want you to meet my mother. Before Christmas, if you are willing. I want her to know that you are not negotiable. That if she cannot be respectful and welcoming, she will not be part of my life anymore. That is a big statement. You are worth a big statement." Clara kissed him, tasting salt from their combined tears. "Okay, let me meet your mother, but you have to meet my mom too. Fair is fair. Deal? Though I should warn you, I am terrified of mother-in-law judgment. She is going to love you. You make wine and you make me happy. That is literally all she cares about." They went back to Owen's apartment and spent the rest of the afternoon wrapped around each other, relearning the feeling of being close. Clara felt raw and vulnerable in a way that should have been scary, but mostly felt right. They were building something real, messy and imperfect, and stronger for it. Meeting. Owen's mother was scheduled for the following Saturday. Owen picked Clara up early, and she could see the tension in his shoulders as they drove to his childhood home in Connecticut. "It is going to be fine," Clara said, squeezing his hand. "You do not know my mother." "No, but I know you, and I trust you." The Everett estate was sprawling and beautiful, all stone and manicured gardens even in December. Owen's mother, Margaret, met them at the door, a tall, elegant woman in her 60s with Owen's dark eyes and an expression that gave nothing away. "Owen, darling." She kissed his cheek before turning to Clara. "And you must be Clara. How lovely to finally meet you." The emphasis on "finally" was subtle but unmistakable. Clara felt Owen tense beside her. "It is wonderful to meet you too, Mrs. Everett. Thank you for inviting me to your home. Please call me Margaret. Come in, both of you. I have lunch prepared." The meal was excruciating. Margaret was polite but cool, asking questions that felt like interrogation. What did Clara's parents do? Where did she go to school? What were her career ambitions? Each answer seemed to confirm something in Margaret's mind, and Clara could see her mentally categorizing and dismissing. Owen grew more withdrawn as the meal progressed, answering his mother's questions in clipped sentences. By the time dessert arrived, the tension at the table was thick enough to cut. "So Clara," Margaret said, setting down her coffee cup, "Owen tells me you are a sommelier. That is a fascinating hobby." "It is my career, actually," Clara said evenly. "I am the head sommelier at Aurelius, of course, though I imagine the pay is not particularly substantial in that field." Margaret smiled, and it did not reach her eyes. "I only mention it because Owen's position requires a certain level of social responsibility. The Everett name comes with expectations." "Mother," Owen's voice was hard, "that is enough. I am simply being practical, darling. You know how important it is to be equally matched, especially in our world. Your father would have, my father is dead, and his opinions do not get a vote anymore." Owen stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Clara is the woman I love. She is brilliant, successful, and the best thing that has happened to me in years. If you cannot treat her with respect, we will leave." Margaret's expression flickered surprise, maybe hurt. "Owen, there is no need to be dramatic." "I am not being dramatic. I am setting a boundary." Owen held out his hand to Clara. "Clara is part of my life now. Either you accept that and treat her with the kindness and respect she deserves, or we will not be coming back. Your choice." Clara took Owen's hand and stood, her heart pounding. Margaret stared at them both for a long moment, and Clara prepared herself for the worst. Then Margaret's expression softened, just slightly. "Sit down, both of you, please." Owen hesitated, then nodded. They sat. Margaret folded her hands on the table. "I apologize. That was rude of me." She looked at Clara directly. "You have to understand, Owen is my only child. I worry about him, about whether people see him for who he is or what he represents." "I understand that," Clara said carefully, "but I fell in love with Owen before I knew anything about his family or his money. I fell for the man who argued with me about wine and listens when I talk and makes me laugh. The rest is just context." Margaret studied her for a long moment. "Owen told me you lost your father recently. I am sorry for your loss." "Thank you. He would have loved meeting Owen, actually. My dad was obsessed with wine. Owen's grandfather was the same way. He used to say that wine was the art of patience." Margaret's expression was almost fond now. "Tell me about your father's restaurant." The conversation shifted, becoming, if not warm, then at least civil. Margaret asked genuine questions about Clara's work, about her family, about her goals. Owen relaxed incrementally, though Clara could feel his hand tight on hers under the table. When they left 2 hours later, Margaret hugged Owen at the door and offered Clara her hand. "I hope you will come back," Margaret said. "Perhaps for Christmas dinner. I would like to get to know you better under less fraught circumstances." "I would like that," Clara said, and meant it. In the car, Owen slumped in his seat like he had just survived a battle. "That was even worse than I anticipated." "It was not that bad. She apologized. She made you feel like you had to justify your existence." Owen looked over at her. "I am sorry. I should have shut it down faster." "You did shut it down. You stood up for me, for us. That is all I needed." Clara leaned over to kiss his cheek. "Your mom is complicated, but she loves you, and I think she is trying in her own way. You are being very generous." "Well, one of us has to be," Clara grinned. "Besides, now you have to meet my mom, and trust me, she is going to interrogate you just as hard. Asian mother guilt is real." Owen laughed, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "I can handle it." Clara flew to San Francisco 3 days before Christmas, and Owen joined her on Christmas Eve. Her mother's apartment was small and warm. filled with the smell of cooking and decorated with an eclectic mix of Chinese and American holiday traditions. Linda Zhao answered the door in an apron, took one look at Owen, and burst into Mandarin directed at Clara. "Mom, English please," Clara said, laughing. "Owen, this is my mother. Mom, this is Owen." "So tall," Linda said in English, looking Owen up and down. Come in, come in. You eat yet, I make extra food." Owen charmed Linda immediately by bringing a carefully chosen bottle of wine and asking intelligent questions about her cooking. By the time dinner was served, Linda was showing him photo albums from Clara's childhood and telling embarrassing stories that made Clara want to sink through the floor. "She was always so serious about wine," Linda said, patting Owen's hand. "Even when she was little, her father taught her everything. He would be so happy to know she found someone who understands." "I am the lucky one," Owen said, and the sincerity in his voice made Clara's throat tight. Later that night, after Linda had gone to bed and they were washing dishes together in the tiny kitchen, Owen pulled Clara close. "Your mom is wonderful," he said, kissing her temple. "Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for coming. I know it is a lot, meeting families and navigating all this. It is exactly what I want." Owen turned her to face him. "Clara, I know it has only been a few months, but I have never been more sure of anything. I want all of this, your family, the complications, the real stuff. I want to build a life with you." Clara felt tears spring to her eyes. "I want that too." They spent Christmas Day cooking with Linda, drinking wine and watching terrible holiday movies. It was simple and perfect, and Clara felt a sense of rightness that she had never experienced before. The new year brought changes. Owen started pulling back from some of his business responsibilities, hiring additional executives and delegating more. He wanted time for a personal life, for Clara, for the possibility of building something beyond work. Clara started seriously planning her wine bar. Owen offered to invest, but Clara turned him down. She needed to do this herself, to prove she could. Instead, Owen connected her with business advisors, helped her find a good location, and listened to her anxious spiraling at 2 in the morning when she was convinced the whole thing would fail. "You are going to be amazing," he told her every time. "I believe in you completely." The wine bar opened in late March. Clara called it Zhao's after her father and designed it as a space that felt welcoming rather than intimidating. Natural wines alongside classics, small plates designed to complement the drinks, an atmosphere that encouraged conversation and discovery. Owen came to the opening night with a massive flower arrangement and Margaret on his arm. His mother had been making efforts over the past few months, calling Clara occasionally, inviting them both to family dinners, slowly accepting that her son had chosen his own path. "This is beautiful," Margaret said, looking around the space. "Your father would be proud." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. That means a lot." The wine bar was successful beyond Clara's wildest dreams. Food bloggers wrote glowing reviews. Regular customers became friends. Clara hired a small staff and started hosting tasting events and wine education classes. She was exhausted and happy and more fulfilled than she had ever been. Owen was there for all of it, helping set up for events, charming difficult customers, celebrating milestones with champagne and takeout eaten on the floor of the bar after closing. 1 year after they met, Owen proposed at Rebecca's wine night, the same apartment, the same crowd, a callback to where it all started. He did it simply, getting down on one knee in the kitchen while everyone else was debating a bottle of Barolo. "Clara Zhao, you have argued with me, challenged me, and loved me better than I knew was possible," Owen said, holding out a ring. "Will you marry me and keep arguing with me for the rest of our lives?" Clara was crying and laughing and nodding all at once. "Yes, absolutely yes." The wedding was small, held at Everett Estate in late summer when the vines were heavy with grapes. Linda and Margaret actually became friends during the planning process, bonding over their shared desire to manage every detail. Clara and Owen mostly stayed out of the way and let their mothers have the wedding they wanted. Clara walked down the aisle between rows of grapevines, the setting sun painting everything gold. Owen cried when he saw her, not bothering to hide it, and Clara felt her heart so full she thought it might burst. They wrote their own vows. Clara promised to always tell him when his wine was too polished, to argue with him about everything, to love him through complications and challenges. Owen promised to see her, to support her dreams, to build a life that was theirs and no one else's. Rebecca sobbed through the entire ceremony. Jessica recorded it all on her phone. Margaret and Linda held hands in the front row. The reception was exactly what they wanted: good food, great wine, dancing under string lights as fireflies rose from the vineyard. Clara danced with Owen until her feet hurt, then kept dancing because she never wanted the night to end. "Happy?" Owen asked, holding her close during a slow song. Incandescently, Clara looked up at him. "This is everything I never knew I wanted. That is exactly how I feel about you." 2 years later, Clara was pregnant with their first child, a daughter they would name Lily. The wine bar was thriving, expanding into a second location. Owen had stepped back from daily operations at the vineyard, focusing on the creative side he loved while letting professional management handle the rest. They split their time between Owen's loft in Tribeca and a house they bought in Napa, wanting their children to grow up with dirt under their fingernails and an understanding of where things came from. On the night Lily was born, Owen held his daughter with tears streaming down his face while Clara watched from the hospital bed, exhausted and euphoric. "She is perfect," Owen whispered. "She really is. I cannot believe we made a person. I cannot believe you managed not to faint during delivery. I had money on you passing out." Owen laughed, still not taking his eyes off Lily. "What can I say? You make me brave." 3 years after that, their son Michael was born. The wine bar had become a mini empire, 4 locations across New York, with plans for expansion. Owen's vineyard continued to win awards and accolades. They were successful and exhausted, and happier than either had imagined possible. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they went back to Rebecca's apartment for wine night, same place, same tradition, now with an expanded group that included their kids sleeping in the bedroom. "Remember when you two spent all night arguing?" Rebecca said, pouring wine for the group. "We all thought you were going to kill each other." "I still might," Clara said, but she was smiling as Owen pulled her against his side. "She is absolutely going to murder me someday," Owen agreed. "Probably over wine opinions, without question, but I will make it look like an accident." Their friends laughed, raising glasses to 5 years, to unexpected meetings, to arguments about wine that turned into something neither had anticipated. Later, driving home with their sleeping children in the back seat, Owen reached over to take Clara's hand. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For arguing with me about that bottle of Margaux, for seeing me, for building this life with me." Owen brought her hand to his lips. "For everything." Clara squeezed his fingers, thinking about that first night, how she had reached for a bottle and found something infinitely more valuable. "Thank you for showing up late and having opinions," she said. "Best worst first impression ever, the absolute worst, the very best." They smiled at each other across the console, 2 people who had debated their way into love and built something real from arguments and wine and the courage to be honest. Their children slept in the back seat. Their life waited ahead of them, full of possibility. It was not always easy. They still argued about wine, about parenting, about whose turn it was to get up with the kids at 3 in the morning. But they always came back to the same place: love, respect, partnership. 10 years after meeting, Clara and Owen sat on their porch in Napa, watching the sunset paint the vineyard in gold and purple. The kids were inside with Linda, who had moved out to California to be closer to her grandchildren. The wine bar was now a successful business with 12 locations. The vineyard continued to thrive. "You ever wonder what would have happened if I had not reached for that bottle?" Clara asked, her head on Owen's shoulder. "Every day. And then I remember that I probably would have found some other excuse to talk to you. I was gone from the moment you called me pretentious. You were pretentious. I was trying to impress you. By being pretentious, it seemed like a good strategy at the time." Clara laughed, tilting her face up for a kiss. Owen obliged, soft and familiar and still capable of making her heart race after all these years. "I love you," Clara said. "Even though you are pretentious and your wine is too polished, I love you too. Even though you are stubborn and always think you are right, I am always right." There it is. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun finished setting, two people who had found each other over wine and built a life worth savoring. Their story was not perfect, but it was theirs, full of love and argument and compromise and joy. And somewhere in Rebecca's apartment, a bottle of 2015 Shadow Margaux sat empty in the recycling, having served its purpose better than anyone could have anticipated. Not just as wine to be drunk, but as the catalyst for two people finding exactly what they needed in each other. A beginning disguised as an argument. A love story that started with debate and ended in forever. Fate dressed up as a Friday night, a kitchen island, and the audacity to reach for the same bottle at the same time.